Do you feel like the global discourse around digital trust and security has changed?
I so security providers like us and others, I think, have always predicted that there would be a point where there were so many catastrophic breaches and horrible stories of people
Mm,
hacking into cars that got driven off the road, that people would wake up and realize how important security is. Um, Little stories like that happen on a daily basis still. But they haven't reached a level where people are waking up enough to realize how important this is
yeah.
in most industries.
Okay.
Uh, and the other factor is that the competition in so many industries is so stiff that the pace of innovation is very fast.
Hmm.
And the last thing that anyone wants is to be slowed down by something that is speculative in nature. And
Mm,
security by its nature is always protecting against the possible risks and the possible unknowns.
yeah.
And people don't like to do that. They like, to say, okay, I need to create this functionality that the customer is going to want and get it out the door as fast as possible.
Hmm.
So, you know, the two things that will change that is if the pace of breaches and things like that becomes much more um, visible, if there are catastrophic failures in well-known systems that create tangible harm.
Hmm.
Um, but the other major thing that we talked about earlier for 2023 is I think governments, they do see the threat. Industry associations see the threat and they're stepping in and saying, no, we have to create standards and have minimum um, set of expectations to guarantee trust in these new ecosystems. Um, because as is always the case, their role is to protect us um, against our own, laziness and ignorance, um, and make sure that we're doing the right thing, to protect. Let's
Hmm.
call it the digital environment, right?
Hmm.
It's almost like uh, how so many people have differing opinions about protecting the Earth's environment. Some of them don't see the problem. Some of them
Hmm.
do. Um,
Hmm.
and the digital environment is the same. There are problems. There are things happening in the background that people eventually are not going to like, and we need to get ahead of it now.
Yeah. So the discourse or the general discussion or acceptance of those topics hasn't really changed yet in the general sphere, but governments and industry associations, they do see the threats. They do
I think
realize that
it's
this needs
it,
to.
it is it is already starting to change somewhat, and that's why we see the increase in demand for things like
Mm.
in-field provisioning and secure firmware over the air downloads.
Where does that demand come from? Is it the consumer or is it?
I think it's both, you know, consumers and corporate buyers and government buyers who
Mhm.
are anticipating both increased risk and increased regulation.